And we are back, and this is a project that we're doing in Burleson, Texas. This is a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, pretty good open space when it comes to porch and living, and then a good size 1,600 square foot shop on this build. We got some larger eave heights as well, so it's giving us quite a bit of elevation. But I wanted to spend a little bit of time and kind of explain to you guys how we got to this point in construction, and maybe some of the steps that are involved. Might not cover every step, but maybe some of the critical steps that take place early on in the developmental stage for getting to this point, and how did we get here today. The first things that a client might do to get to this point is going to be acquire land. That is one of the first key things, is looking for a lot. When you're choosing land, you're looking for good soil, you're looking for a buildable area. You want to make sure you got that. There's a lot that can be done to create it, depending on the slope and whatever's going on. You could definitely change property. But if you want to have an easy road of it and maybe a little bit less expensive, you would consider buying something that's already got a buildable site on it. Here they had a pretty good flat spot that didn't have much elevation to it when it came, but it had enough to where it's got good drain off. That's something key that you're looking for. Another key thing that you're looking for early on in a project is, can you get power? Is that going to be fairly expensive to accomplish? Do you have water? I think here they don't have to drill a well, but a lot of our clients have to drill wells in certain areas, which can add some expense to a build. Now, most of the time when we're building in rural areas, you do not have sewer, so that's not an option. I would say 95 to 99% of the time, probably something like that, we are doing a septic system, which has an aerator or an aerobic system is what it's called, where you are doing your own sewer on site. So that's not something that necessarily is a need be. But having power and having water, maybe natural gas if that's important to you, but most of our clients do propane. So getting some of those things out of the way, those are some key things that you're looking for when you're talking about your land. Next is going to be the developmental side. Obviously, you've got to have a plan if you're going to build, and sometimes the plan might come before the purchase of the land. Here, I'm not sure which came first, but our clients ended up working with Alan Luzier with Ellis County Reprographics, which a lot of our clients have worked with in the past. And a lot of the designs that you see with bestbarndoplans.com that we have available that are for purchase, Alan has done the design on those. So you'll see a lot of those common layouts that are used. It's maybe a little bit more economical to come in and choose a plan that somebody else might have already worked with. But picking a plan is key to determining budget when it comes to building. Now, what comes into your budget might include how much you purchase for the land. That might determine some of your budget as well. So having that as a variation or a variable in your calculations might be key and important for a build. So once you have a plan and you have been able to determine a budget, one of the things that we've put out there is a Barndo cost calculator. If you go to barndoquote.com, you have the ability to sort of toggle and to play around with these parameters for construction, whether it's living square footage, shop square footage, porch square footage, and you can sort of play around with some of those and develop a budget as you're going in and getting your plans drawn. A lot of our clients utilize that tool so that they know, okay, this is about what it's going to cost, and that can be edited and reformed as many times as somebody might want to do. Another thing is on our plan site where we have these plans, you can go ahead and click a link there and get a quote on a particular plan that you might like on the website, which is sort of key to building a budget. Maybe you saw a video of a certain project and you liked it and you want to build something similar. We have those variations, or we can have a whole new design done and you can play around with those square footages and the cost. Another thing that could impact cost, I would say, in the future is build styles. So choosing sort of a build style may impact some of the costs. And we have some pretty cool opportunities coming up where we may be able to get that whole envelope, and it might still be attainable if you trade out steel frame for wood frame, but maybe it might be possible to still get A completed air barrier is what you've seen us do at our black gold project. But primarily what you're seeing us build is our most efficient way to build currently is the hybrid steel frame, which is very similar to what you're seeing us build here, where all of the roof line is a free span with steel, and then you see us come in and add our 2x6 studded walls on the perimeters of this with the interior wood framing. This is the common way that we've built. We've sort of developed a system around it, and we have a unique build style because we build with intention for the Barndominium, which sets us apart from some competitors that might be out there. So those are some unique details that you should pay attention to as we continue to portray that on this channel. Now, moving along, as somebody has chosen their plan, chosen their design, and maybe have a quote with Texas Best, you're able to maybe agree on that quote and get a site meeting set up as you're looking to proceed. And we have a preliminary quote, we have a preliminary plan. At that time, gets initiated with Texas Best, and somebody's able to set up a site visit, and we come out. There is a small fee that is initiated at that point. Basically, it just says that, hey, we're serious about this process. We have land, we want to build, and Texas Best will come out on property where we'll come look at the land, talk about the plans. It's a good time where I get to meet the clients, and we get to kind of build rapport with one another, which is important part of this as well, to make sure we're all headed in the same direction. From that standpoint, we try to finalize our contract, make sure that if there's anything that needs to be revised, maybe the land has some crazy aspect to it, maybe there's a lot of clearing that needs to be done, maybe there's a lot more dirt that needs to be brought in. So some of the budget might need to be adjusted at that point. Those are some of the key reasons why we like to get together with the clients at that stage as well. We might talk about roads, we might talk about the power, the utilities, all of these kind of things that might add some variables to your cost along the way. One of the things that we did to help people sort of prepare for this stage is we put together a pre-planning strategy PDF file that you can download with request through our website, and you can kind of go through the checklist of things that you might need to prepare. So I'd recommend you ask for that, and we will get you that immediately. If you put that in the comments below, we'll send a link as well so that you can access that. From that point, we are going to contract. Your funding needs to be secured. If you're paying cash for the property or for the project, then you would need to get references from the bank letting us know that you have the full funds. Otherwise, we're going through the bank process. Now, nothing changes with us whether somebody's paying cash for the property or they're paying with the bank. We still have a draw schedule. It takes about 14, maybe to 16 draws, sometimes a little bit more throughout the process of a build. Everything is communicated to the clients at every draw. It has to be approved from the clients and accepted before any payment is made. This is just a standard practice that it really in construction in general that comes forth on a build like this. This is something we routinely do. We will be securing builder's risk on the project to make sure that all of the insurance is covered throughout the build. So that's allotted for as well. And then we don't require money up front. It's money is being drawn as progress is being made. So there's a little bit of wait time while we're waiting on the funding. Once it's funded, we go to close. Then it becomes a project for us where we start putting this on our repertoire of projects that is to come, meaning we can order a soil sample for the project. We have to have it sort of staked off, knowing where the house is going to be built. We'll get the geotechnical report so that some of the engineering for the foundation can be done. All of that has happened along the way. You're getting these reports, you're getting the foundation engineering done. You may be coordinating your power, where it's going to come from. So some of these things are happening. You might even be shoring up any of the fine details about your layout on the inside. There might be a couple little changes you're wanting to make. You might be talking to us about special selections, windows, doors, some things that might have long length times that you might want to start doing. You become familiar with our selection process because we're bringing you in on a project management program that we use called Builder Trend, and we are getting everybody acclimated with the process which is about to unfold. As we go through that wait period, we will then initiate coming out to start construction on site. Now, before we can start construction, we got to make sure developmental permits have been pulled. And on this particular project, permits that were required with a developmental side, because this fell into an ETJ. ETJ is like a additional developmental checklist that you got to go through, and sometimes it requires elevations for the land. They want to see a site plan, so it might require you to have an additional site plan made for the project showing exactly where the house is going to go, where they're approving it in the development itself. Now in other counties, maybe, because this is a ETJ, this is not building in the city, but there's certain properties which are building just straight county in Texas. Those projects don't require city permits. They require developmental permits that might be just a few $100s. In some counties, it could be as low as $75 to $100. It really just depends, but you might have a permit fee. Now, when you're building in the city, there could be permit fees that have impact fees of several thousands of dollars, sometimes $3,500, $7,000. Sometimes they require structural stamped plans, which we have to send off the plans to engineering and get an additional plan from a structural engineer, which might require that could be thousands of dollars as well. And so after you got all your permits, all that kind of stuff is satisfied, we're looking to break ground on the property. Here we came out, we set stakes, we broke ground. We probably had 30 to 40 truckloads of dirt that we brought in, and here they wanted to raise the elevation a little bit higher, so we ended up bringing a little bit more than we normally do. And sometimes, logistics-wise, that can be a challenge getting in and out of the property depending on the season. So these are all some really key things that we think about early on, and we might even discuss that during our first initial site meeting, is coming in and out of the project, and weather delays if it rains and there's no road access. So these are key factors on building a barndominium or any home that we've discussed so far. Before we even get into the things that we specialize in, this is just general build details, things that it takes to get to this stage of construction. So we set forms with the foundation first after the pad site's done. Then we do trenching, where we're trenching in for the grade beams where all the additional concrete's gonna go. And then our plumber comes in, sets all the plumbing in place based on the plans. And then we come in and the foundation team puts everything back in order after they've sort of messed everything up from the way that we've left it from the pad site. And they get everything ready to where it's ready to pour concrete. There may be some added stops depending on what inspections might take place with the foundation engineer. A lot of times we have them out. If there's municipalities or cities that's got to be contacted, we got to wait for that. And you're just looking over everything and trying to make sure nothing's getting missed as you get ready to pour the concrete. So you get your concrete poured, you're going to let that cure. In most cases for us, it could be a minimum of 2 to 3 weeks. We like for everything to really set up good, because concrete's curing for quite a few months, but the first 30 to 40 days is the most crucial. So we like to have 2 to 3 weeks for it to cure, because we've got a big, huge sky track that we come out and we use this to erect the steel, and that thing weighs probably 27,000 pounds. So we don't want to be putting that on top of our slab that we poured 3 days ago. Now that waiting process, it kind of goes hand in hand with a busy builder anyway, so you're going to have a little bit of time while you're waiting for your foundation to cure. But another thing, like in this case, we do is, this is post-tension. So we do what's called a pre-tension and a post-tension. So once the foundation's poured, we contact the cable company, not the kind that brings your TV service, but the kind that these cables are engineered, and they have to come out and sort of pre-tension these cables, not to full capacity, but they pre-tension these cables so that it has a little bit of tension on it, and then they come out maybe a week later and do a post-tension where they really tighten it up and secure it from a compression standpoint on post-tension. Post-tension is a process that's used more widely where you have expansive clay soils. Now here we have a better soil, but we're still doing the things that we do with expansive clay soils. Now you could switch gears and do something a little bit different, do all rebar or whatever if you got better soils, but we try not to judge that. We just want to have good results and keep doing it over and over again. So we more than likely do post-tension unless something special requires us to do something different. Once the foundation is cured, we come next and we set up the time to come do our steel frame. In this case, it's a hybrid steel frame. So we set up for our fabricators as well as our steel supplier comes and delivers the materials, and we are mobilizing, bringing our equipment, our SkyTrack, scissor lifts, all these kind of things out on site. Then we are moving forward on the project. We've got our steel frame going, and we're usually working to get all the steel frame done on the project first so that it's all secured and in place. You don't want to have a bunch of people working underneath those guys because they got heavy steel. Usually they might spend a week or two on site doing the steel framing. Then we're coordinating, doing a takeoff for lumber and ordering our lumber onto site. That comes into place next, where we're just about to where we're at on this stage of the game, where our wood framer comes out and does a lot of the wood framing. And that's where we've been here for the last week on this site. So as you can see, there's a lot of details. There's a lot of steps that build us up to this point. Now, as we go on from here, we've got our framing complete. We're doing windows, airtight sealing. We're going around with our liquid flashing. We're sealing this thing up tight. Then we come back. We're doing all the exterior. It might have stone on it. It might have some special accent areas. These are some of the things we're focused on. Meanwhile, on the inside, they're starting to focus on all the trades coming back. We might start the tile work on the showers. We've got electrical happening. We got HVAC duct work and all the systems being installed for that. We've got our plumbers coming and doing all his rough in as well and aligning where all the systems are going to go for that. After all the trades are done, we do insulation. Here we'll have closed cell foam that goes to all the direct metal, and then we complete our R factors with open cell, and then comes our sheetrock, where we've got our drywallers coming in and we're covering everything up. Our cabinets are going to come into place, and then we're going to be focused on finish work, painting everything, making it all look really good. Flooring is one of the later things that we do. Unless we're doing stained concrete, that happens somewhere early in the process on occasion, where we might stain the floors, cover them, and then come back and do our final seal on those at the end as we're trying to make everything clean. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this informative style video where we discuss the steps that may be involved. Now, I know there's things that I've missed along the way talking about this. There's a lot of gathering. There's a lot of research that needs to be done before you can put boots on the ground to build. I recommend that you guys download our PDF file, watch as many videos as you can, get as many ideas as you can about your layouts, because that's what this channel is all about. We're giving you as much insight as we can about the process for building, things that you want to focus on, and maybe even products that you might want to purchase. That's what this is about. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. I'm Josh Helm, wishing you all the best. Thanks for watching. Texas Best.
Oh yeah, Texas Best.